Hi everyone, this is Neel Raithatha, consultant audiologist and director of ClearWax. Thank you for joining me in my latest video using the WAXscope. And here we have a patient who attended with a completely blocked left ear. And this wax and keratin plug was rock solid. As soon as I placed the suction probe onto the surface of the wax, it almost rolled off. So I've decided just to instill some medical grade olive oil spray just to see if I can soften the lateral surface just by softening it a tad. Sometimes you can get a good suction grip. However, not only was this wax plug, at least the surface, rock solid, it was really adhered to the canal wall. So what I'm doing here, I just went to the floor of the ear canal and to the back, trying to elevate it off the canal wall. Now, this patient, main symptom actually, believe it or not, it wasn't reduced hearing. They felt they could hear reasonably well. It was otalgia, ear pain. And it's not a surprise that this would be painful for the patient, given just how blocked it is and how compressed it is against the canal wall. Now, this is where the consistency of the plug varies slightly at different parts of the wax plug. So I mentioned the surface was rock solid, but the core of it, when I embedded it with the tip of the angled ear hook, it was quite crumbly. So it just broke it, well, it just dissected it really, it crumbled away. Now, sometimes when you crumble the wax in that way, when you go back in with the suction probe, which is what I just did, it can come away in little bits, but it didn't in this case. So what I'm doing here, I've inserted the right angled ear hook again, and I've just glided it on the posterior canal wall, and I'm rotating it counterclockwise or anti-clockwise to get the tip into the middle. And once again, it didn't extract the wax and keratin plug, but it is kind of cutting through it, as you can see. And I think a little bit came away here. So now that I've got that away, I'm going to go back in with the suction probe, I suspect, just to suction away any loose crumbs. And sometimes you can be fortunate and a plug comes away. But once again, you can just see how adhered this is and how blocked it is. Now, it has softened slightly, but that's not going to come away purely with suction alone. But I can see it's just crumbled into smaller pieces here. So let's see if I can pull this away, which I could. And I think I might use the corrector in a moment. There we are. So because the center of this was quite crumbly, I decided to use the corrector to get some leverage and surface area. Now, the consistency has changed again, so this is a bit deeper and it's less crumbly, but it's a bit more fudge type. So even within a single plug of wax, you can get different consistencies. Now, I'm trying to lift this away from the posterior canal wall, so I'm gliding it to the right-hand side. I've managed to lift away some of this kind of more softer, fudgy, but very dense and thick wax, and I'm just scooping it out. I think I'm going to go to the floor of the ear canal to see if I can get underneath, because this is where I feel the most resistance. You can see there's a lot of skin here. Now, this is a good illustration of the right angle correct. You can see the curvature. I've mentioned it in the past. I've designed the correct so it has a curvature that mimics the curvature of the ear canal. And the benefit of that is that when you're gliding in between the wax and the canal wall, there's going to be less friction because it's going to take the shape of the canal, so you get a more frictionless glide. So I've lifted the wax and keratin plug off the floor, and I'm just going again to the back and just leveraging it away, but it's so dense, I'm having to apply a lot of pressure. And you can probably see there's a lot of hairs matted in this wax and keratin plug. So I'm just stretching the ear open again. Decided to go to the front of the ear canal just to see if I can leverage it away there and back to the floor. So I'm using a combination of tools here. And you can probably see just a moment ago just how much pressure and leverage I was applying to that. Now, given I've lifted the plug somewhat off the floor of the ear canal, I've decided to put a bit more medical grade olive oil spray in just so it can seep underneath the plug to see if that helps. And the oil is helping a little bit. I'm getting a better grip now. You can see it's softer. It's not as rock solid, but But the consistency, the best way to describe is that very thick, dense mud. And I'm just allowing the suction to do the work there. I'm allowing the suction power to generate. And then once it has, I'm lifting it away. So when you place the suction tip onto the wax, you don't get an instant maximum suction grip. You have to allow it to build up that suction power. And it's something that in my earlier days I probably wasn't very good at. I was very impatient, I suspect. And so I'll just put the sucker there and not allow the opportunity for the suction power to generate and just try and manipulate. And sometimes that works quite well if the plug of wax is not as dense as this. You can see I'm just leaving it there for half a second or two, and then I'm pulling it away. I think ultimately I'm going to remove this with, majority at least, with the ear hook. I'm just going, so we separated this bit, it's matted, so I'm just going to get that away. There's a little gap there now, so again I'm going to use the hook. I can penetrate a bit deeper, and once again it's kind of cut through, but I think I do bring it forward. So you can see it's moving on the left hand side. That's the second bend, so I've leveraged this past the second bend now. Now I think at this stage the plug of wax was actually visible externally, so if this patient was to leave the clinic at this stage, people would be able to visibly see that plug. And I've got a large plug out here. I have got a still image. I know a lot of you do enjoy watching the still images. I apologise that I don't always post them. It's just sometimes the clinic's so busy and I've just got to prepare for my next patient, so I just don't have the time to take the images. So I've got that original plug out, but behind that you've got another very large plug. So I'm just using the suction probe here. I'm giving it a little wriggle. We need to manipulate this around the bend. So this patient's, all of our ears, we've got an S-bend ear canal. So a sigmoid shape. So it's almost like a snake. So we're having to, as we're bringing it out of the ear, especially a big plug like this, because the section I'm bringing this plug through now is the narrowest part of the ear canal, and this plug is actually larger than that section of the ear canal. So we have two distinct narrowings in the ear canal, the first and second isthmus. So isthmus is just a phrase to describe narrowing. The first narrowing is between the first and second bend and the outer centimetre portion of the ear canal. And then we've got a second narrowing deeper in the ear canal adjacent to the eardrum. I was going to get the eardrum in focus. There was a loose hair there, but it wasn't causing any problems. So I just decided to leave that. Otherwise, you can see the ears have got quite a bendy ear canal. The anterior canal wall, so the canal on the left, is quite prominent. There's just some residual wax skin. This is just past the first bend, I suspect. Yeah, so that's the first bend you can see there, that flesh. And it's the first bend where you predominantly see the majority of the hairs protruding out from. And you may be able to see the difference between the bone and cartilage. So you can see there's a border. You've got a piece of skin that's more vascularis, more red. So that's the bony part of the ear canal, because that's thinner. And then you have the more fleshy part of the outer third. So this is the patient's right ear. Got a good view of the eardrum there, but just got a bit of wax coating. I don't even think I charged the patient for this. I just said I'll remove it for them. It's there, so it's going to use the suction probe. It's matted. It's going to peel it away from the canal wall, give it a little wriggle. And there we have it. So you're going to see a still image. That's all the wax from the patient's left ear. There's quite a considerable amount. You can see a bit of skin involved there, loads of loose hairs, matted hairs. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care, keep well, and speak soon. Bye.